Can Trump successfully achieve the revenge goals he is setting out to accomplish? If President Trump wins in 2024, he has made it clear he is out for revenge against his political enemies, and some experts are raising alarm bells that he won't have the same protections that were stopping him in his first term. What can effectively be done to stop Trump from using the government as his own personal sword to attack his political enemies and to keep him from cracking down on political protests? I can think of Biden rushing through judicial nominations and Congress restoring some of their oversight functions, but what happens if he gets a Republican branch of Congress that refuses their oversight responsibilities? What executive branch watchdog bodies can be strengthened to keep Trump from using the executive branch as his own attack dog? A piece of paper, in this case the Constitution, doesn't stop people from doing things. It's only effective if everyone agrees to follow it. When one group shows you, they'll subvert it to get and keep power. Believe them. Trump and the GOP have no reason to stop breaking the rules because they suffer no consequences, legally or from voters. So ramping it up another notch, like they've been doing this whole time, is not going to suddenly stop. They're going to continue escalating things until they suffer a real consequence. An unhinged Trump would just ignore court rulings, fire people and military officers until he gets loyalists to do whatever he wants. An administration based on executive orders, SMS, ignoring courts and laws. He's already said he's gonna invoke the Insurrection Act on day one. Go on a revenge tour, and I'm sure he'd declare national emergencies to get whatever powers he wants. He has zero respect for the Constitution and our nation. He is actually intimidating witnesses in his trials. It is a very powerful message to the likes of Mark Meadows to keep their mouth shut. What I learned in 2016-2020 is that the Justice Department is extremely weak at enforcing the Constitution in real time for when the people attacking it are politicians. They seem to prefer to pursue relatively small-time criminals like drugs networks and pedos. They don't go hard against internationally funded crime syndicate agents holding office. Absolutely bananas. Half the country seems to want this racist, rapist, lying cheat of a sociopath back in charge. What's the matter with America? How did y'all become like this? He can if the GOP wins control of both houses, or he decides to call in his stormtroopers and take Capitol Hill while the military sits idly by. Most of the Republicans who could stand up to him have been ousted. Trump doesn't believe in laws that restrict him. So if he can get away with it, he will. It is clear from his behavior that he would act like a Roman emperor if he can get away with it. If he is reinstalled and manages to purge integrity from the government. Yes. Who's going to stop him? He has support in Congress and on SCOTUS despite leading an attempted coup. He stole classified national security secrets to the Saudis. Crickets. When he started being taken seriously in 2015, I thought America was done. And I haven't seen anything which compels me to change that assessment. Did Hitler? Do not underestimate these people. It can happen here too. We must resist. Trump's saving grace is his incompetence. He aspired to be the supreme mob boss during his first term, but often failed to achieve what he wanted due to his own lack of talent. Hitler was a lot more ideological and a bit more intelligent. If it happens, a second Trump term may prove to be corrupt rather than dictatorial. With the focus on graft and greed, favorable contracts to friends, money diverted to pet projects that enrich him personally, and so on. Think of his pet border wall, which was just a money grab and had no real effect on policy outcomes. Be on the lookout for Stephen Miller. The guy does most of Trump's speeches and is very dangerous to democracy. He'll be behind the firing of anyone not loyal to Trump. Dude isn't even trying to hide it or be subtle anymore. But yes, probably. The entire Republican Party moves how he moves. And I don't see that changing. If he becomes a dictator like everyone says he's going to, he will be able to do whatever he wants. That's how dictatorship work. I firmly believe we are seeing a historical sea change in real time. A party shift on the scope of Lyndon Johnson's 1964 CRA. Let's wait and see. I'm just so utterly tired of how dismal our politics are. No offense. This timeline just absolutely sucks. I feel like the discussion starter here was, should I worry about Trump's second term? Because he won't be able to do the crazy shit he says he's going to do, right? Well, the answer is you should be very worried. President has extremely vast powers and Congress is a joke, so they won't act as oversight. The Supreme Court has been totally captured. So that is no saving grace either. Partisanship has destroyed separation of powers. So yeah, be afraid. A relevant point: 2024 will be the 100th anniversary of the Weimar Republic pardoning Hitler. Confident they could get a monster to behave. Hey, I have a crazy idea. How about we don't give Trump the chance to achieve his stupid, horrible plans in the first place? Let's make sure we don't have to find out if Mango Man will actually do anything by voting next year for whoever is the only option with a realistic chance of winning. If that ends up being Joe Biden, that's fine. At least he's not trying to turn himself into a dictator like the tangerine trader wants to. He can. And will. He is telling us what he is going to do. Just like he said he would appoint justices to overturn Roe. I think many of us, myself included, learned that DC runs on a form of gentlemen's agreements the media calls norms. If there's one thing we've learned in the Trump era since he announced his run until now is that yes, he can and will be as horrible as we fear. And nothing has been able to stop him so far. What's happening now reminds me of the legend of Rasputin, when they did everything possible to stop him, yet nothing worked. As in 2016, he probably couldn't achieve the full extent of what he wants, but just a fraction of it would be bad enough. People talk about how Trump is preparing to be president, but so is Biden, and I imagine those efforts run counter to one another. So it's not like he can just set the board to be whatever he likes ahead of time. As he always turns on his friends first, some of his pals had better beware. I can very easily imagine someone close to him taking him out of the equation. If he gets re-elected and proceeds to turn into a dictator like he's telling us he will, could we see civil war as an option? No. Remember in 2016 when "Lock her up" was a campaign slogan? Nobody got locked up. If no one stands up to him, there's nothing he can't do to wreak havoc across the country and the globe. Considering the courts are saying the Constitution does not apply to the president, Colorado's courts said that he committed insurrection, but added that the Constitution's rules that insurrectionists can't run for office don't apply to the President. Biden can have the guy whacked and spare us this future terror. And don't get all indignant, you know damned well Trump is planning to have his enemies whacked when he gets power. He talks a lot of rubbish, then he calms down or he's made to. However, it's not much of a threat cause he's not gonna get elected. He managed to convince his supporters. Now he's putting doubts in our minds. But his indictments are real. He broke the law, and refusing to accept reality don't make it go away. Why the fuck does this have this title? It should say something like Trump flat out says he's a fascist and will turn the USA into a dictatorship or some shit like that. Fucking signals? GTFO.